Hello and welcome to the Vandy 24/7 podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Chris Lee. We got this handsome guy here. I don't know how I can keep up, but you guys know him if you've been a long-time podcast listener. But I'll let you reintroduce yourself, my man.
Yeah, my name is Bob. It's great to meet you guys. I can't do that. I can't even pretend to do that. Yeah, it's me. It's Seabass. Back for another one of these. It's been a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
I've been doing radio for about 25 years now. Here, I'm in Jackson, Tennessee, at Talking West TN 1015. And I've been doing a couple shows a day, every day for a quarter century now. In the morning, it's political or, whatever's going on in your life. At night, the cheap seats in year 25, longest running show we have here consecutively on this station. We talk sports. And of course, I've been doing podcasts off and on with Chris for several years. Been off for a little bit, but what a great time to jump back in. Good grief.
Yeah, it is. And we'll talk the LSU game and just wherever we go. We'll get to the mailbag in a bit. But, man, it's great to have you back. You and I have been good friends.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years or more since you've done one of these with me?
I would say it's been every bit of 2 years. So we've had transitions here at the radio station, new ownership. I've kind of moved around on a couple things. And so I just haven't had the time to do that. Doesn't mean I haven't kept up with everything. Still good there. Just haven't had the time to do these. So some things have changed up in my favor. So have a little more flexibility with the time to be able to keep up and to do these with you. Yeah. Love doing it.
That makes two of us. I mean, really, it was me. I didn't have the time anymore to do what we used to do. But, hey, we'll get into the show in just a minute. As always, we thank our sponsors. Vandy 24/7's football coverage is presented by former Vanderbilt kicker Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. If there's one thing we all share, it's that our lives are unique. At Raymond James, we believe that is worth celebrating because financial planning isn't just about numbers and figures. It's about creating the life you envision. So whether you're building a future or preparing for retirement, a Raymond James financial advisor can guide you through each step of the way while looking to a plan that is uniquely yours. That's a life well planned. To learn more, call financial advisor Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James at 615-645-6742. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange. Basketball season is brought to you by our friends at the Wash House Commodores. It is time to win back your weekend. Skip the laundry pile and let the Wash House Laundry Center handle that for you. Our new pickup and delivery service covers all of Nashville. We'll grab your laundry, wash, dry, fold, and deliver it right back to you, to your door. That's more time for tailgates, highlights, and victory celebrations. Schedule your first pickup today at washhouseclean.com. The Wash House Laundry Center, the official way to stay fresh on game day. Big thanks to my good friend Steve Andrews for sponsoring the show and basketball season. All right, man, we got a lot to catch up on. I'll just kick it to you. Where would you like to start?
First thing I want to do is you mentioned Joseph just a minute ago. Boy, he's good. I've loved listening to him. Him and Billy do those Sunday shows. I look forward to them every week. Boy, they do a bang-up job. He gives you a little more inside look, but he's sharp as a tack, man. So, yeah, Joseph, you and Billy, keep up the good work. Those are fantastic.
Yeah. Gosh, the last time we did a show, I'm trying to think of when it would have been, seriously. Maybe the 2022 football season?
2022,
basketball after that.
Yeah, the narrative was very different the last time we were doing these than what we get to talk about today, which makes me so happy. So happy.
I mean, we did, for people that don't know our history, you and I have been friends for what? Probably over 20 years now. I believe I met you in the press box the first year I covered things.
25 years. Yeah, something like that.
04, 03.
I remember venting to you. This was in another life, so we're in better hands now. But it's another life. But I remember venting to you because I was really the only person even remotely covering Vanderbilt anything west of the Tennessee River. Right? I mean, they had no presence whatsoever. But I've been a lifelong Vanderbilt fan for over 50 years. And so I was working media in there, and Ole Miss was in town. And I know you remember this, Chris, but Ole Miss was
Yes,
in
very
town.
well.
And I had my spot right there in that front row of the press box, and I certainly enjoyed it and being there and covering the Commodores. And I came in one day and get ready for that Ole Miss game, and I got up there to the press box, and they said that they had given up my seat. They'd given up my seat. I said, to who? And the craziest answer for me was Archie and Eli Manning. Well, I freaked out. I said, I love those guys. They're great. They are not media, first of all, and they're certainly not there to cover you. They put me up there in the observation tower where the cameras are. You know what I'm about? Well, the TV did. They put me up there, and I went home. And boy, I wasn't really much on the internet back then. But man, if it was today, I'd have blasted them out the universe. But they gave my seat away to Archie and Peyton to watch Eli, who was there to take on the Commodores that day. And it was a great game. And I want to say it was, what's his name? Deuce McAllister, if I remember correctly, had a monster day that day, if I have my memory right. But that was then. This is a whole new different era in Vanderbilt athletics right now. And I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. I said, not only we do have a brand new volleyball team, which I love. They're playing hard. Those wins are going to come. They're doing great. I'm really proud of them. But if you think about it, all the major sports that we compete in, we talk about this athletic department, they're ranked in. Ranked in football, ranked in men's, women's basketball, obviously ranked in baseball. Just a couple of years ago, what was the narrative? Well, they're great at baseball, and that's just going to have to be enough. Well, we're not there anymore. We're across the board, and I really love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you and I did radio before I just started doing podcasts, and like you would help me with the post game show that I had on radio. Which, by the way, Vanderbilt didn't support that one either. So you weren't the only one to kind of get the shaft there from the old media people at Vandy. But anyway, and then I think I started doing the pod in 2014, and you might have been my first guest. And we did it for about 8 years, and we pretty much had almost nothing good to talk about. Like the best it got, and I mean, other than baseball, and you're not really a baseball guy. You pay attention.
Not true. Not true.
Well, okay,
but
I mean, that is a distant
guy.
Right. Yeah. That is a distant, you follow it, but that's a distant third for you. And so it just got to the point where there just wasn't a whole lot to talk about.
Right.
And we got busy. I was working like a dog. You were working like a dog, and it just didn't work out anymore. But so I guess the point I'm getting at is like, this is the first time that you and I have done this together. We've actually had real stuff to talk about of interest that wasn't like, squinting your eyes and dreaming on how this could be something. I mean, like we cover something of substance now. And I look forward, because you and I've never had an era where we've done podcasts together in that kind of environment.
Yeah, that's right. And, I got to tell you, now I've been to 2 home games so far this year, and just sitting there in that stadium, looking at it now with the finished product, the way that it is, the excitement, the ability to pretty much get a place to capacity without a fan base, without a traveling fan base, the visitors. It's just something that I never thought would be the case. And then I look at this program right now, and, I think our stars for people like Jerry Kill and Tim Beck and Diego and Eli and all this, but I have to give so much credit to Clark. I got a chance to talk to him when he was in town a couple of years ago here talking. And I'm so happy for him, because I know what it means to him, and I know what it matters to him, and to see this unfold. And I love his approach, because look, we're 5-1, we're ranked. That's his expectation. People are talking about us, but he's not got his head in the clouds. You can see that. It's about the next rung on the ladder. That's what I love about him, his relentlessness in his work and his approach to this program, no matter what it is. Of all the people, all the lifelong Vandy fans, everything, I couldn't be more proud for anybody than I am than Clark Lee. I'm so proud of the work he's done.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I will give him credit for is going to media days when they were just a disaster, and putting out that we want to be the best program in the country stuff. And people made fun of him, and rightfully so. I get it. And look, that's still a big ask. But the point to me was never, can they be the best program in the country? Like, I'm sure he believes that, wants that. But like, the bar was set so much higher with those kind of statements. But before, it's just like, hey, maybe every now and then we can get to a bowl. And because I think he set the expectations where he did, because he got a quarterback who set the expectations that he did, and they rebuilt. I mean, really, the day that Vanderbilt football changed, and this is sourced, was when they got beat by UNLV a couple of years ago. You remember that one early in the season?
On the road.
They went to Vegas. That was the point where everybody just said, hey, wait a minute. We can't do this the way we have been doing it. And obviously that season was not salvageable at that point, but they said, all right, we're going to have to make a pivot in the way we do things. And I remember, a couple of weeks later, I got a call from one of the quarterbacks on the roster's father. And he just said to me, hey, look, just letting you know, my son's going to be transferring out. Probably the whole quarterback room will be, because they've made it clear they're going to a different approach with mobile quarterbacks.
Right.
And
well, I definitely know who you're talking about.
Well, it could have been one of two, but it's the one that you know.
Right.
But in any case, like, that was just those two things were like when this whole thing started to turn. And again, and then you bring in Diego Pavia. And now all of a sudden you've got a guy who thinks the way the coach had been speaking, and here it is with Vanderbilt, a couple of days away from, I don't know that it, like, if they beat LSU Saturday and you ended the season, then said, hey, regular season's over, we're going to go to the playoff. I don't know that they'd be in the 12-team field, but I don't know that they wouldn't be either. I think they'd be probably like on that 10-11 seed line or just off it.
Right. And the better that Alabama does, the better opportunity that is, if we're able to handle that, to handle our business the rest of the way. And I think, another bedrock moment for me, and I think it's pretty easy, is the game last year at home against Alabama. And I think the difference here is not just the belief and the execution, but it seems to me like that, and I think it was you that kind of inferred this, and I could be wrong, that the powers that be on West End really liked that attention. They like the way to kind of unfold it and say, wait a minute, we can balance both. And this is a lot of fun. And our names are on the lips of everybody across the country. Maybe we see if we can do a little bit more and give Coach what he needs. And they've been able to do that for the most part since then. And they've been able to be active in the transfer portal with people who come in and make a difference. I think about a guy like Trey Richardson, a guy like Jordan White. Hey, Jordan White's one of the best things to happen to this program in a while, in my mind. So,
yeah, I think the other pivot they made too was the grad school thing. Like, if you can get old and bring in old guys, and that is where they are getting so much better,
especially on the offensive line. Yeah.
Well, that's the crazy thing, right? That, like, for Vanderbilt to maul people in the lines of scrimmage, and that's more on the offense. But the defensive line, I'm not going to say it's a concern, but they certainly had their moments, right? There's a lot more depth there, but the dominant side of the line of scrimmage is the offensive line. I mean, I don't remember, someone was talking about they may have the best offensive line in the SEC.
That was, I saw that on the last night. I saw that I'm trying to remember who that was, but there was a roundtable discussion. Yeah, I saw that as well. But hey, throw the jerseys out the window. It's about, look, this game now more so than ever that it's ever been is year to year. And if you can bring in people that have a ton of starting experience and have proven good and stacked good football on top of good football, that's a feather in the cap. It's not just Jordan White, obviously, though he had been kind of the bell cow. But the transfer portal, I would say probably, other than quarterback, because Diego, and maybe tight end, but the offensive line in the transfer portal has been very, very kind to the Commodores. And think about this. If you want to have success in major college football, you need to have two things in order: your quarterback and your offensive line. And they've got that. They've done that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are the two places you'd start. I mean, there's still places they can get better. But the thing to me was, okay, I think there's two elements to this, right? You've heard me say for years, they are their own worst enemy. Well, they've stopped being that, not to a complete degree, but they've made more progress there probably in 2 years. Let's see. Well, I mean, the UNLV game was just a little bit over 2 years ago. What, 25 months ago?
Yeah.
They probably made more progress in 25 months in getting out of their own way than they made the previous 50 years. I mean, and probably more than that. That's piece number one. The other thing, and I was kind of leaning towards, okay, this may be a one-off really good season. And then it may take them a while to get back there. And I do maintain, you do not know what the roster is going to be next year, but I would give you, 98 chances out of 100, it won't be better. You've got some special things with the line, with the quarterback, with some continuity. I think the chances are slim. I might be wrong. I'm not going to say they're 100%, but I would bet against whatever they have next year not being as good this year.
Well, yeah.
But here's the difference, okay? I don't think this is a thing where, okay, they used to hit a team like this maybe once every 10 years. I mean, sometimes it was longer than that. They went from 82 to 08 without going to a bowl. And then every few years, the Franklin year, but like on average, it's like one out every 10 years. They're respectable. Now they're, we'll see what the season brings, but right now they're a notch or two above respectable for one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, and that ranking is legitimate. Think about this. In the past, we would talk about what does the other team have to do to screw up for us to be competitive in that game. And I submit to you that in these last 2 years, when you talk about the Alabama, the Auburn, the Kentucky, the Georgia Tech games, and coming in here, South Carolina, these games, we're not winning those games because the other team was screwing up.
Right.
Now with Alabama, that might be a little different last year, but we did deserve that game. We beat them in every aspect of the game. We don't have to hope that they'll screw up along the way so we have a chance. We have the personnel right now to make things happen, to control the football game. This is a team that you have to prepare equally for the run as you do the pass, and there's no, outside of Eli Stowers and Diego Pavia, there's not anybody that you would look at and say, dear God, he's good. We don't control this guy. He's going to kill us. But we have it in waves. I mean, and so if I'm going, look, if I come in and I'm a defensive coordinator and say, okay, we're taking Eli out of this game. Okay. We've seen Vanderbilt win games this year when Eli wasn't a huge presence because other people were, names that you didn't know to prepare for. Like, who in the world knew who Trey Richardson was? Nobody. And what I love about it, it's across the board. It's either somebody different every week or a couple of different somebodies. That doesn't happen a whole often, all that long. Like, let me give an example of this game this week with LSU. Now they struggled a little bit here, but they don't have a person on that roster that I look at and say, "Oh my gosh." I mean, we can't stop this. Why is Vanderbilt favored? Vanderbilt's favored because the truth of the matter is, forget what the sticker on the helmet says. Collectively, talent-wise, and I'm not here to talk about rankings from recruiting. That's great. But where you are right now,
recruiting rankings are less relevant than they've ever been.
So much less relevant, because the reality is, now, would I love to have Harold Perkins on my team? Sure I would. But collectively, as a football team, Vanderbilt's every bit as talented at LSU, if not more. So these are not surprises anymore. And we no longer have to hope the other team screws up. This team is good enough. And here's the other thing. Friends, Commodore fans, here's what I want you to think about. Because I know I have this feeling, and it's a very strange feeling for me. I no longer have any air of intimidation. I expect to be in the game without regard to who we're playing or where we're playing. And even in ruckus atmospheres, like when they went and played Alabama, they'd already won in Blacksburg. They'd already won in Columbia. Two of the, and even though it hasn't been great seasons for them, at that time, they were both crazy from the heat. I mean, they were still rocking. So I never expected the crowd to be the issue in Tuscaloosa, and it wasn't. Look, let's just say what happened. I mean, it is what it is, and he knows it. You turn the ball over twice inside the red zone with the way that Ty Simpson's playing, and in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I don't care if you're Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Georgia, you're not winning there, So, but other than that, did that team really look like they didn't belong there? Of course not. I mean,
No.
that's why I say the job that Coach Lee and this program have done in such a short amount of time from a program that you just wouldn't expect it to be the case is absolutely amazing. And we are not lucking up on these victories. We're not. It's no longer a matter of taking. If you take a top 20 team for granted in your house or theirs, well, you're just stupid.
Yeah.
By the time you play them. So yeah.
Well, there's the one nagging question I have coming out of the Alabama game before I finish a thought I was going to a minute ago is that I do wonder. I don't believe this, but I don't think it's 100%. We're not going to know till Saturday, and maybe not then. But I do wonder: was there something that Alabama figured out that's going to slow them down? Diego couldn't have escape lanes. Like, is there something that Alabama put on film that's going to make their offense mortal? That is my biggest concern coming out of this one.
And I totally get that. It is a fair question to ask. But what I would say is, remember, whether that is the case or not, this is a team who, coming into that Vanderbilt game, by the way, if I remember correctly, was 90th against the run. And they've done a much better job of that. But whatever the case may be, it's being about the sum of the parts. This team that we're talking about, the one loss we have, has 3 straight wins over top 20 teams and 2 of them on the road. I submit to you, I hate the turnovers in the red zone. We obviously do. But I think Alabama, and I think you'll see that Saturday again as well. I know they don't have Jam Miller, and that's going to be a problem because if you're going to attack Tennessee, what do? You run the football at them. Unfortunately for Bama, they don't have a running game right now. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, man, I would say to you that other than the turnovers, that may have a little more to do with the fact that Alabama has rounded out into being what is probably a top 5 team.
They're the best team in the SEC right now, in my mind. A&M's the other team in the discussion. A lot of people say Ole Miss. I'm not there yet. Maybe if Ole Miss wins,
now I got to be off of it. I was there with Ole Miss,
yeah.
but I don't know how you explain last week. I really don't. Washington State's a team that lost 59-10 to North Texas State.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it was a week of being ill-prepared and just assuming you're going to win a big game, but that was a 4-quarter struggle. It's one thing when you start out slow. But that game was a struggle for 60 minutes for them.
The other thing I was going to say, what I think makes this more feasible long-term for them potentially. Well, I think more than potentially. I think absolutely it does. Okay, if you'd said a few years ago, okay, Vanderbilt's got to get its stuff together. Got to do facility stuff, got to make academic concessions, a lot of things like that. You still would have been competing against Heisman trophies and tradition and crowds and like all the things that, like, even if Vanderbilt gets its stuff right, the competitive landscape is so overwhelming that just to climb up a notch or 2 on the ladder is hard. And even if you do, it's even harder to stay there year to year. Again, it was always the feeling like, okay, if they get their stuff right, maybe once every 5 years, they can be really good. Maybe they go to a bowl a year or 2 otherwise, and that's just where the ceiling of the program is. The conditions have brought everybody so far back to the middle. No, like I think the Kent States and the let's just make this a Power 4 discussion, right? Throw everybody else out of there that's not a Power 4. I think the opportunity is now there for any school that has a foot at the table, especially in the SEC and the Big Ten, to compete. I mean, you could have this conversation at Purdue or anywhere, and I think as much as they've done and as good as and positive as the changes that have been made have been, I still think their ceiling was going to be very limited under the model that existed 5 years ago. I don't think that now. I think that is a bigger break that they caught than anything that they have done.
I don't think there's any question. And I think one of the other things that helps them, now we usually recruit a certain type of player, and we still do some of those. I think one of the good things about that is you look at the other powers that be in regards to academic-minded programs in the Power 4 have fallen on their face. Now, I won't say that Duke has fallen on their face. They're still playing good football. Are they better than when Elko was there? I don't know. I mean, they're still good, but Northwestern, and I understand they won against Penn State, but that may be one more about Penn State than anything else. And Stanford's completely fallen off the map there. To me, the most logical comparison for Vanderbilt these days is Georgia Tech.
Right.
But I think, and look, this is something that time's going to tell us, but I think maybe there's not. I mean, I've heard it a little bit of underground swelling that once Diego's gone, get ready to go back to the way that it used to be. And here's what I would say to that, to people, to Vanderbilt fans and non-Vanderbilt fans alike. And Diego, if you're watching, you are my favorite Vanderbilt player of all time. You are. And I love what he has done. But have you not noticed that this mindset, their approach to everything that they do, has spread throughout the entire roster? I mean, I understand how talented Eli is, but Clark has been able to, with the help of Tim and Jerry and everybody there and everybody buying in, the leaders on that team. We don't just win because Diego's balling out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we got people who are producing. We're good in the trenches, for the most part, especially on the offensive side of the ball. This is the mindset of execution that has carried out throughout this entire program. So that, yes, Diego is amazing and they don't grow on trees, but this shows me that Clark has the ability to get through to people. And that the message is resonating and that it's something that people buy in with. So, look, they've recruited the quarterback position pretty well on the high school level. And I would imagine that they will also hit the portal fairly strong as far as that goes as well. So what may be a different type of approach, and it may not be Diego Pavia. I think that the mindset there is look, this is not a place where you're coming to get an education. You might play a little football along the way. This is a place where you're coming to play football. You make some money and you walk out with a 4-year degree, and that'd be awesome too. But I think that Clark has shown over the last couple of years that this is not just about Diego.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be hard to replicate, but I think you're right. I mean, remember, I think it was, gosh, it would have been 4 or 5 years ago, and we did this preseason thing where he picked over the roster, and we said, man, I don't know that I can name 5 guys on this team that would get meaningful reps at even a middle of the pack SEC team. And now that list is in the dozens.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, most cats that are on the field for us at this point, either starter or meaningful playing time, are absolutely power four Southeastern Conference players. And it looks weird because if you think about it, look at this offensive line right now, and look how they look like the other teams that we've played in the conference for years. How many times, and not just the offense, but the defensive line as well, have we looked at them, and when we stack them and we're playing them, it almost looks like college versus high school players. They don't physically look like they should be in the Southeastern Conference. That is not the case. That is one of the biggest offensive lines in the SEC and one of the most productive. And over on the defensive side of the ball, I think we need to take it to another level. But I would also say this, and it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. I would love to see the production if Issa Wataha were playing as well. And I know he'd love to be out there. But I really felt like this was one of those years where he was going to showcase to say whether or not this was a guy who plays on Sundays. And and the defensive line could certainly use that.
My other concern about them is, and they'll see it Saturday, the question is, can Garrett Nussmeier get them the ball between his health and maybe their blocking? But my concern, and I just think of the Tennessee game a year ago, where Tennessee didn't have a really good receiving core, but it was more athletic than their DBs. And I just remember those guys, I remember them busting like a 90-yard scoring pass, backed up against their own end zone just because somebody got an angle and outran the defense. I do worry that with the Andersons and Brown and all the gazelles that LSU's got, Trey'Dez Green at tight end, could they run up against a bad day where that's part of the script? Less than 50-50 so, given what LSU's shown, but not 1 in a million either. And I do look at some teams ahead on the schedule. I mean, they've still got to play. Missouri's got some pretty good athletes at receiver, a couple in General Coleman and I think Marquise Johnson. Tennessee's got 3 guys at least who can really run, and Brazel and Matthews. And my concern is that could they get schemed on defense to where big plays ended up beating them kind of the way they did at times a year ago?
Yeah, and I told, look, yes, is it possible? I reckon the difference between that Tennessee game and this version of LSU is what Tennessee had Dylan Sampson last year, who on any play could take it. LSU, if I'm correct, or Chris, if I'm wrong about this, feel free to correct me, is the lowest rated rushing team in the entire conference. They have no running game.
Yeah, well, they ran it pretty well last week. So I don't know if they figured something out or it was just a fluke. I don't know. I don't always look at yards. I look at per play. I mean, look, it is certainly a below average SEC rushing attack, and it's been a talking point down there.
And it's been that way for the last 2 years, by the way. It's really weird. But here's the way that I'm looking at it. I feel without having to scheme, I think we can pretty much shut the run game down just as we are. So that it comes down to a quarterback who, by the way, you know how many times I have called Ryan, I've called Nussmeier Ryan Nungesser over the last week.
Only you would make that mistake.
I mean, that's for Commodore fans back in the 90s. Nungesser was, I think, a linebacker, maybe out of California or something like that played for the Doors for a little bit, I think. And I've called him Nungesser a couple of times. But with Garrett Nussmeier, I mean, I know we talk about injury, but I've watched every game except for the Southeast Louisiana game, and there is a massive disconnect there. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's the receiving core, but it's been replicated over and over and over again. Now, if he finds his stride, it could be a long afternoon for the Doors. But to me, they had no support of a running game. I feel completely confident that Vanderbilt could shut that down. So if that's the case, I mean, let's think about this for a second. I don't have anything in front of me, so if I'm wrong about this, Chris, correct me. But in the 3 games that LSU has played in Southeastern Conference, Clay, 20 points is the most they put up. If that's right, you can double check that for me.
Yeah, I'll find it. By the way, while I'm looking that up, here's what's pretty crazy, and this is like, I don't mean to throw shade at this guy because apparently he's well thought of and a really good dude, but who they really wanted and were focused in for their offensive coordinator before they brought New Mexico State east, don't you?
In Nashville? I didn't know if you're talking about
who Clark Lee was really trying to get.
Okay. I didn't know if you were talking about
before they settled on Beck and Kill and those guys.
No, I don't know who was it.
Joe Sloan, LSU's offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I remember that.
They chased him hard for a couple of weeks, and what I was told was that, Vanderbilt at that time was kind of viewed as a graveyard, for reasons we all know. And I think he's an East Carolina alum, and there was some talk that he could maybe wait it out a year and get the head coaching job and go back there.
I remember that. Yeah.
So going to Vanderbilt was just perceived as like, why crash your career on that rock?
No, I totally get that. And yeah, I like it. But here's the reality. I mean, it's going to come down to you either have the horses or you don't. And there's nothing about anything they've done. Look, I mean, 23 points against La Tech, if I remember correctly. Their only breakout offensive game, which in fact, I think 23 might have been their second highest point total of the year outside of the Southeast Louisiana game. Other than that, this offense has not put it together at all. Now, if that happens in a game or two, all right. We're halfway through the season and they haven't been able to do it. So I'm not saying they can't, but the track record of this season, not 5 years ago, but this season says they won't. And if they don't, if he doesn't put that together, there is no chance they're running their way to a win.
Yeah, point totals for LSU, and then I've got to get out. We got to go to the mailbag because I've got to be out of here in about 20 minutes to run an errand. 17 against Clemson, 23 Louisiana Tech, 20 Florida, Ole Miss 19, South Carolina 20. Now, here's the problem. They've lost one game because what they've given up, 10-7, 10-10, 24-10.
Get it?
And last week they had 420 yards of total offense, which was the first time they'd been above 365 other than the Sela game, which I kind of don't count. And that was Louisiana Tech. Offense against Clemson, 354, 316 against Florida, 254 Ole Miss, 420 South Carolina. They did get last week on running plays, taking sacks out 5.5 a carry, which is the best they've been all year against anybody. So
step in the right direction, but it was also against a team who they know isn't going to put up points.
Yeah,
For
I'm
most
just
part.
saying. I mean,
Who's the
there's a
second
chance
highest
they
scoring team in the SEC right now? It's Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, LSU would love to play this game in the teens or low 20s.
Yeah,
This game, the winner of this game starts with a 3. It won't be LSU.
first one to 24 wins, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe first one to
Maybe.
20 wins.
Yeah, maybe, but and look, I totally respect LSU defensively. I do. Now, I do know that Weeks was considered questionable. Do we have an update on that?
No, I think we get it later today.
That would be a big loss for them. I don't think there's any question about that. Plus, you got to remember, with the creativity of Tim Beck and some of the personnel that we have, they tend to create some real mismatches. You have to. This is not just about just bowling them over, but you have to be on your when you're facing Tim Beck and somebody who can execute it the way Diego does. You got to consider all possibilities on every play. I mean, think about that. Think about that against Alabama, where they had the shuttle success down in Tuscaloosa, but then they came right back and did it again. Who would have thought they were going to do that? And it worked. So you got to be prepared for everything when you face Vanderbilt, for sure.
All right, let's get into the mailbag.
Sure, let's do
And
it.
that is brought to you by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call, 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Longest-running sponsor of the show, Seabass appears on the guest line, presented by John Levin and Womble Bond Dickinson's. We're friends of the show, as is Yeaman Packaging Systems, leaders in end-of-line packaging automation. Thank you guys also for your sponsorships here. Okay. Dusty Orleans, which player, one from offense and one from defense, would you like to see get more snaps and why?
Let's go with the offensive side of the board. And I'm going to say Trey Richardson, because I felt like early in the season, I mean, he had a lot of success, and on the road to getting other people involved, that's great. But it seems like we've kind of gone away from him a little bit, and he adds such a dimension to this team. I'd like to see that happen maybe, or I'll throw one more in there, if you will. Actually, two that I'd like to see get involved more. Bryson Coleman has had a couple of nice highlights here, but I mean, I like him a lot. I think we're going to need him a lot next year. I'd like to see him get a little more involved in the offense. And then a guy who, I mean, I don't know if there was any expectations or what it would look like. But one thing that we got a lot of smaller receivers, but I need one of those guys, those contested guys, maybe almost somebody like a Loic Fouonji from last year. I feel like that's what Trent Hudson could be. Mm-hmm. And we just haven't seen anything out of him, and he's a different type of receiver, one that I think that we could use, and we just haven't seen much. And I don't know if that's a game situation, if that's a Trent Hudson thing or what, but I was hoping for a little bit more at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that does fill a little bit of a stylistic need they've got.
And then let's see, on the defensive side of the ball, man, first of all, let me say this. I love the way they rotate. I mean, that's they play a lot of players, and there's not a massive drop off in some of those. But a guy that I would like to see more and if there's an injury that I don't know about, you tell me, but I don't know if he got passed on the depth chart. But I've had a lot of high hopes for Trudell Berry.
Yeah, I think he just got passed.
I don't see any Trudell Berry, and maybe we don't have to have him. But I mean, he played some nice early football when he got there early, and I just haven't seen much of him lately.
Yeah, that feels like just got passed over.
Which, I mean, that might be a great thing. I mean, not against him, but just that the level of play has been elevated.
Yeah.
That.
All right, Vandy Guy 90. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
To cut you off. I know we got a lot to get in before I've got to get out of here. And want to get as many of these as I can. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Get to all of them. We'll see. Vandy Guy 96. Seabass, so glad you're back on the podcast. Do you have any favorite football commits from the class of 26 that you'd like to highlight?
Ooh, from the class of 26. Boy, I wish I had that in front of me right now. I mean, I know every one of them, and I can't think of one right off the top of my head, which sucks because I know all of them. Man, I sure do apologize. Well, I tell you one. I take one right now, and it's the only scholarship in-state commit that we have, and that's Kayvon. How do you say that name? The young man from Macaulay, Tavido, I think it is. It brings an air of speed, a level of speed that will be fantastic in this offense. So I'd love to. I'd love to see more of him. Hopefully, we can hold on to him. I know he just got a Miami offer the other day. Something that I've really kind of liked so far. And by the way, I don't want to say this, but Michael Mitchell, when you turn on the film of him, and I'm not calling him this by any stretch of the imagination, but God, he reminds me of Russell Wilson. You know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the quarterback out of California. I mean, he just, and every camp he went to, he always tore it up. I was a little surprised that some bigger names were not in on him. He's held steadfast. I know at one time they were nervous about losing him to Stanford, and I get that. That's the hometown team. But I like him, and he's been committed for a couple of years. But I like him quite a bit. But there's a bunch of kids in this class that I'm liking quite a bit. And the thing that I dig is that if you look at the states where all these cats are from, it's Florida's, Georgia's, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, California. It's real football states. But I'll throw one more name out there for you. And it's the young man out of South Mississippi down in Picayune, Mitchell Smith. I don't know if you had a chance to turn on the tape of this guy. It came down to Vanderbilt in Alabama, and this dude is already, he doesn't have to worry about the weight room, friend. He's already there. This dude is an absolute mauler. So I would say if I'm excited about one person, it might be Mitchell Smith.
Yeah. You know who the one guy I want to see them get, don't you?
Who's that?
Andre Adams.
Well, I mean,
I have been smitten with that kid since I saw him play a month ago. I don't know what you could want that guy to do that he did not show.
So they have
right?
Oh yeah, kid out of Antioch. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
715 in total offense tonight. I saw him play. No turnovers, no bad throws, and had probably a 50-yard bomb that hit a kid in the hands that got dropped.
Yeah, and I think last week it was almost 500 yards and 9 touchdowns in that win over FRA.
Son of a coach, good student. Yeah. I'm like, what do you? I don't know, man. I'd 100% offer a scholarship and see how it goes.
And it's interesting, the approach, because we've got Jack Elliott, who's going to be there. You have Michael Mitchell, the 27 kid, Luke Babin, I think it is, out of Woodville, Texas, who looks great. He does. But if they took that commitment over Adams, now my question is, do we know that Adams is looking to commit? Is that, I mean, I know we like him, but
there's been a lot of chatter that if that might be where he wants to end up.
Well, the thing about it is, for high school, look, with recruiting high school quarterbacks, and you know how that game goes, there's only one football. But well that these Power 4 teams are going to continue to hit the transfer portal as well. So I guess my question is, when you do let's say Vanderbilt goes out, and you and I have talked about a name, we won't say it out loud, but who they might be looking at right now. My question is this: if they bring them in annually, what does that do for high school quarterbacks, and their ability to develop? So if I go out and I get somebody who's a starter right now, whoever they are, what's that like for Jack Elliott? And guys, when you come, how long are they willing to be patient? It's not like playing other positions where you can rotate. You don't rotate your quarterbacks, not if you're smart. So it's all or nothing. So I find the quarterback recruitment, be it the portal or high school, to be some of the more fascinating. And if you've already got one from the class of 27, I haven't seen Adams play in person, but everybody that I've talked to raves about the young man. And if he wants to come here, I don't think you turn a talent down like that. You let the competition sort it all out. But if he wants to be there, you find a way to get a scholarship for him, especially locally.
I mean, if he were a knucklehead or something, and like by all accounts, he's a really good kid. I don't know him, never met him. Just listen to what's out there. He's the son of a coach. He's a good student. Like I don't know what you don't want in the makeup box that he doesn't offer. But anyway.
They know what I would say this. They know what what they're looking for that fits their system.
I get it. And I feel like an idiot because I'm not the coach, but I don't know, that to me was eye-popping.
And who's to say, look, who's to say they would not take a commitment if you wanted to give it now?
Yeah, and they may. But hey, I've got 11 minutes or so before.
Fire away.
Okay, what have we got next? Dusty Orleans, what do you think has contributed to offensive line success this year? Is it better talent, a scheme that's difficult to defend, staff development, or something else?
Yes, 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 and yes. And I got to say, look, I interviewed Chris Klanakis in the first year of me doing sports talk. I used to come to the station and I would call random colleges and call their football departments trying to get interviews, getting your foot in the door. And maybe the second or third coach that I ever interviewed was an offensive line coach at Southern Miss named Chris Klanakis. Back around 2001, somewhere around there is what it would have been. But when you hear over, it's one thing when a couple of people say it, but when you hear over and over and more than one year, this guy's the best in the business. This guy gets the most out of people. I mean, look, how often do you see our offensive line out of position? The only thing I would point at is the early season and in camp, the penalties, early on. But between the strength program and Chris Klanakis and just the fact that they went out and got good big offensive line, strong people who can move the football, move the people off the point of attack. I think it's a combination of all those things. But, man, having Chris Klanakis is a huge part of that, I think. Plus, you have to remember something. This is an offense that, these defensive coordinators, they have a little trepidation about being overly aggressive because Tim Beck will make you pay for that. So their approach to the point of attack is a little bit different than it normally would be because they force you to play every blade of grass from sideline to sideline.
All right. Beck's 4VU, since they have new flavor since the last time we heard the soothing sounds of your voice on the podcast. I want to get your latest go-to at Jenny's. For what it's worth, I prefer buttercream birthday cake on top of gooey butter cake.
Well, gooey butter cake is one of my two favorites there from all time. They got a new one called Double Dough that I just had last time I was in town for the what game was that? The Georgia State game. I was there for that and had the Double Dough for the first time. But they have a new flavor that I have not tried yet, Chris. And listen to this. It's a blood orange dreamsicle.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I love blood orange and I love dreamsicles. I have not had it yet. I know they have it. I don't know if they have it in the stores yet there, but I knew it is one of their newer flavors. So definitely the Double Dough. And maybe if they have it, try a scoop of that blood orange dreamsicle.
Yeah, I will be next time I go. I'll be looking for that one. That's right up my alley.
Yeah, you and me both.
Okay. Also from Bex, is this the best offensive line you've ever seen at Vanderbilt? Which offensive lineman do you most enjoy watching?
Easily Jordan White. That's the first thing. He's probably my second favorite player on the team. I almost said second flavor on the team. Second player on the team. Best. Here's why I'll say yes, because I don't perceive anybody to be. Now we have some offensive linemen better than others, but I just don't see what. And in most of the cases, even when we have a good offensive lineman, a Justin School, somebody, something like that, there's other pieces where it's just so deficient and you can see it. I don't think there's a hole. I mean, there are some that are better than others, but not really a gaping hole on this offensive line that's giving up sacks, that's getting blown off the football. I don't really see a lot of that. So pound for pound, I can make that argument, sure.
Yeah, I mean, other than the period of time where Isaiah Glass was getting a penalty every quarter, hard to pick much in the way of issues there.
But boy, I tell you what, between he and Henderson, they can move people off the line. Boy, there ain't no doubt about that.
Steve,
and by the way,
98.
Henderson
go ahead.
hasn't been. I'll just say this real quick. We were concerned at the start of the season with the pass pro for Henderson and what an issue was going to be. Hadn't been an issue.
No, I was concerned about the whole offensive line almost coming out of camp. But I wonder now, I don't want to dwell here because we got questions to get to. I do wonder now, I wonder if they spend a lot of time in camp doing the things that make teams uncomfortable or weak things, because there's some areas the last 2 years in camp they look so bad at doing. And then they got to the season and it looked completely different. I don't know what it is about this staff, but the translation from camp to regular season is more dramatically different than anything I've ever seen with any other staff.
It is. And I think, I think a big part of that is Clark seems to be relentless in his approach to every single aspect of the program. Things that don't seem like they would be a big deal to outsiders kind of mean everything to him. So he doesn't leave any attention to detail. And look, we love Clark, but he'll get after him. I mean, and I love that about him. And we know Chris will. We know Coach Klimakis will, but they're pretty much perfectionists, and they work on the small details, that I think have certainly bared fruit.
Stevie U98, are you surprised Vanderbilt is favored against LSU?
No. Why should I be? Why should I be surprised by that? I mean, LSU, as we pointed out, the lack of offensive prowess by LSU this year. The game is on the road. I don't think it's going to be that massive, and I'm really interested to see what the crowd looks like. Very much so. Will it make the difference in the game? No, because Vanderbilt show you they don't care about that. They're not worried about that at this point. But I think it would be a great sign for the program if on Saturday morning I look up and it's not all purple and gold.
Woody Ball 66. Glad you're back. Seabass, leading up to Alabama, we had several players running their mouths, ensuring we had Alabama's full attention. It has been quiet this week. Do you think that helps, or does Vanderbilt being favored make it irrelevant as far as LSU being 100% focused on us, instead of them partially looking ahead to Texas A&M next week?
The thing about football is talk is what it is. Emotion is what it is. Here's where that matters. It's 23-14. The game is over last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. Game's over, right? I don't blame Jam Miller running that in. I would have to. We ran our mouth. We ran our mouth big time, and that's what happened. But that's not what carries. People have to understand that. They get caught up in that, and I am telling you from experience, that emotion and things like that last for a couple of drives. And then it comes down to the game. It comes down to the players. It's not who talked and who did this and who did that. It's about what's going on in that game at that point. The only way it matters is, like I just said, with the Miller run at the end, something like that. But, all that other stuff, it's not going to matter. It's going to come down to play calling and execution, period, point blank. It just is.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama had some extra motivation. The fans had some extra. That's a situation they won't run into the rest of the year, other than.
And you wrecked their season last year.
Yeah,
everybody was talking about it. So they had extra motivation. There's no doubt about that. But on Saturday at 11 o'clock, it's going to come down to who's producing and who's not. That's it.
Vandy Danger, what do you think is the key matchup for this game?
Oh, I think it's simple. It's Vanderbilt secondary. Look, if there's an issue on this team, and I'm not calling it issue, but if there's an area that I would like to see most improved, it's pass defense. And some of that will help with pressure on the quarterback. So I think we certainly have to do that. But I think the matchup is simply put the receivers in the passing game of LSU against Vanderbilt's pass defense, because if LSU cannot throw the football, they can't win. It would have to be some turnovers, special teams, things like that. If they cannot run their way to victory. Vanderbilt can and does, but they can also throw their way there too. I'm not saying they're a juggernaut on both sides, but the balance there makes it a problem for defenses. And this may very well be the best LSU defense, or excuse me, this LSU defense may be the best we've seen all year, and that's fine. But they have to prepare for a full game plan. But until LSU consistently shows me they can run the football, this is all about their passing game. And if Nussmeier is as off as he's been on some throws lately, I don't know where their points come from.
Danny D from the chat, have you heard of Bezos and Cuban involved in NIL with their kids enrolled? I didn't know Jeff Bezos had a kid at Vandy. I did know Mark Cuban did. In fact, he was shown on TV a few weeks ago in the stands. That is almost the sports equivalent of trying to verify a UFO sighting.
Yeah,
I mean, there's been talk that they have, or that at least Cuban has, but I would have almost no way of knowing whether that's happened. I would bet that it has not, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's way above my pay grade, brother. I have no idea.
Yeah. Cole wants to know, will Wataha get a red shirt? I mean, I think at this point you have to think about it.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
Questionable again, which has been the case. Well, he's been out some weeks.
I thought I read that he's doubtful. I think he's doubtful for
I think it's doubtful and not questionable. Correct.
Yeah, he's not
let's see if there's anything else in here in the way of a question. Let me see if there's anything. There might have been one or two I missed from the mailbag. Okay, Dusty wants to know your favorite play or drive this year. I think we'll end on that one.
My favorite what? I apologize.
Your favorite play or drive from this season.
Ooh, boy.
Make it quick because I've got to be out of here in about 60 seconds.
Boy, I don't have one in particular. So I will just say play would be the end close to the end of the South Carolina game with the sack right there that caused a fumble that really just kind of, we bullied them and just kind of showed that this game was way, way over with. So if I had to pick one, it'd be that.
Hey, great to be on with you again. Tell people where they can find you online and where they can find your shows.
Yeah, you can check me out. I'm on Twitter at Seabass or at Seabass 1015. And I'm on 1015 and 96.5 Talking West TN here in Jackson, Tennessee, Monday through Friday, brother.
All right. He is Seabass. I'm Chris Lee. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend. You've been watching and listening to the Vandy 24/7 podcast presented by FanDuel.